This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm Roby Brock, joined by John Brummett of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. It was a lovely weekend. I hope you got out and enjoyed it some.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Not too much.
You had a great weekend column over on
you.
Sunday.
That's what I like to hear on Monday.
Talking about Uncle Asa and Nephew Jim, and I think that's where we should begin our discussion today.
Also call them King Asa and Prime Minister Jim.
Well, I didn't bring that into the mix there.
Well, it's been in the paper. Might as well admit it.
Stuff.
Okay, yeah.
Let's talk about Asa Hutchinson. Actually gave a pretty revealing interview with us over the weekend in our program here.
Just pat yourself on the back.
I'm going to do that since you're not going to do it for me.
No, it was excellent. I watched it. It was very good. Very good interview.
So I want to know what intrigued you the most about that interview, because he talked about he would work with the highway dollars that the voters either approve or disapprove. He suggested there be some cabinet reshuffling. He suggested that he defended his tax hikes that he's been after there. And I think most interestingly, he said you should not count him out for a future in politics.
Yeah, it was right at the end of the interview, and you said, basically, are you done after this? Are you finished? And you said, he said, I wouldn't count me out. If you'll remember, I said on here a few weeks ago, and I'm going to be disappointed if you forgot, but I said I thought that he had designs on, should the seat become available, when Bozeman finishes this term, should he not run again, which somehow seems a possibility to me. I don't have any basis for that. It just seems possible. That Asa, then in his 70s, would want to do that. And I think I've been told that's one thing kind of in his mind, should it become available. Nobody's trying to force anybody out. I'm just looking at the future landscape. And when you think about Hutchinson, I've gone around years talking about the modern era of Arkansas politics that I've covered being dominated by Clinton, Pryor, maybe Huckabee, BB in the state senate, and then governor. But think about since the 80s. Yep. Asa has run for everything in sight. He's been, in every decade, he's making a major statewide race. U.S. Senate in his mid-30s, lost to bumpers. In his 40s, running against Winston Bryant for Attorney General. His 50s, running unsuccessfully for governor against BB. Then
he did successfully get elected to
Get
Congress.
into that, yeah, get into that.
And state Republican Party chair.
Okay.
I'm just taking all the words out of your mouth.
Okay.
I have to do that every now and then.
The point is, this man has been bolder in marching to the ballot than anybody else in our lifetimes. I mean, and not only that, but when he did get elected to Congress, and in Congress he was an impeachment prosecutor of Bill Clinton, and then post-Congress he's a Washington leading bureaucrat, a near cabinet member, drug enforcement, and then number 2 at Homeland Security. Has an interest in national politics. So yeah, he's the perpetual candidate of our lifetimes, not these others that have been thinking about. And he sort of defines our politics in the way that he was always getting beat for a while, and now he's the big man. And he could be saying, I'm not through because there's weakness in being a lame duck, even though I think that's overrated. I mean, everybody knew BB was a lame duck, but he still got the private option passed with Republican help. So I think that's over. I think he may have politics left in him, and he's saying so. Yeah. Let's
talk about something else that I know you have opined on and have watched closely, and that is the Arkansas Works lawsuit.
Yes.
We heard, I guess the judge kind of gave us some tea leaves to read in his commentary there. I want to get your interpretation of what he said.
I think you can read too much into what a judge says. I think everybody's sitting there thinking, well, by his questions and by his comments, is he giving away how he's going to rule? And I'm just going to tell you, I don't mean any criticism of the press here. I don't want to sound Trumpian about biased news, but you could go on leftist websites and you could read that the judge just destroyed the case, obviously, from the bench, that they were laughing in the courtroom. He was about how he was seeing the Arkansas Works program as absurd under what the federal rules should be. The Democrat-Gazette had a piece which quoted the judge as saying a couple of things that seemed to be sensitive to the Arkansas position. So I don't read tea leaves in that. Here are the tea leaves I read. He threw out the Kentucky case on the basis that Medicaid is not about a work requirement, it's about health care. And if you're not expanding health care or trying to expand health care by that work requirement, then it doesn't meet the statute. That's why I continue to predict that this one was a loser, and he's going to rule by the end of the month, and we shall see.
What happens when that happens? The legislature will still be in session. They will probably be right in the middle of the Revenue Stabilization Act.
Right.
What do you think happens?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. You know, I think that Governor Hutchinson and Prime Minister Hendren and Speaker Shepard and others have listened to me, and maybe one or two others worry about this or fret about this, and I think they're in a position to say, one, we're not going to shut down state government and go home without a human services appropriation over this, and we're going to set about now trying to figure out the judge's ruling and this is up to the Trump administration as to how we redesign these work requirements, but if there's any way in the world we're going to get one done, Arkansas is going to be there, and that will get them through. Now, it is true they could take out the Medicaid expansion money and pass a human services budget.
Yep.
They're playing a little game here saying, well, if we don't do Medicaid expansion, we'll go home without a budget and we'll look like D.C. threatening to shut down the government. It doesn't have to be that way, but that's what we're going to hear. And they're all planned for it. And we're not going to have the thing blow up at the end over this ruling. I don't think.
I'm going to throw another school of thought out there.
Well, you go right ahead.
What if you say the work requirement did what it was intended to do? It weeded out 18,000 people that we could not identify and figure out were doing any work at all.
You mean spike the ball and call a touchdown?
Basically.
I've seen that done in politics. I think the first guy ever said that to me was Bill Clinton. Sometimes you get stopped at the 1 yard line, you just spike the ball and call a touchdown. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that you could even construct a verification process to make sure that there aren't these phantom enrollees on there. And I don't think that would be a hard sell.
Here's been the whole difference on this thing. Yes, maybe so. And I hope they do that. And then people, if they want to get back onto it, can get back onto it without this computer business. But I said all along, if you're trying to do a legitimate inventory of your Medicaid population, because it is true that under basic Medicaid, you only pay when somebody incurs charges. By this private option, we're continuing to pay premiums every month on people, whether they go to the doctor or not. So it's fair enough. Yeah, let's try to figure out who these people are, and if there's some we're paying premiums for that we can't find or aren't using it, let's try to streamline that and do it better. So, but it was this so-called work requirement, and this political window dressing of a work requirement, and the mean-spiritedness and nonsense of that upset me. If they want to declare this an inventory done, and now let's move on, then I'll get right through. I'll spike a ball too. Great. Let's all declare victory.
You'll raise two arms up and call it a touchdown, won't
and
you?
quit throwing these people off that you don't know who they are or why, and declare yourself done.
Let's talk about nephew State Senator Jim Hendren here from your column.
You don't like my calling him Prime Minister, Jim, do you? You wince a little bit.
I'm just saying, well, we're not in a parliamentary government here.
It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So he has proposed an earned income tax credit, some other lower income tax relief, combined with some tobacco taxes and some new taxes on e-cigarettes, which a lot of the medical community says needs to happen. We have seen Senator Jim Hendren go from Shiite Republican in his youth to pragmatic conservative these days. What do you make of this transformation?
He's gone from, by the way, Shiite Republican was Mike Huckabee's word for the far right insurgent Republicans who couldn't stand the fact that back in Hendren's House days, that Huckabee was raising the budget and doing progressive things, and Hendren was a leading backbencher and flamethrower in those days, and he just sort of smiles about that now, and the responsibility of governing is different. He turns out not to be, what'd you call him?
A pragmatic
conservative. I think he's now the left flank of Arkansas politics.
Really? No,
Nicole Clowney and Megan Godfrey and Majority Leader Blake, and those are. But I mean, this guy's just having I think he's had some personal growth, and he's also having so far, I think it may blow up on him now for this, but he's having a very good session. You know that whole thing with Senator Flowers that we just talked about last week? You had the right flank outraged and talking over a couple of days about a need to sanction her for what she did. Hendren met with them, met with Senator Flowers. facilitated a come let us all calm down. Everybody get up and make your statements, and let's move on, and let's not go through something like that. That was largely his leadership, his forbearance, that this is the way we can handle that. A couple of senators have gotten out of line, you know, a couple are out of line in terms of the standard advancement that he wanted to see done, and he's met with them, and things have been smoothed out. He's having a very good leadership session. Now this bill, and then this. Did you know this was coming? I didn't.
Yes, we did.
I didn't.
Yeah, he talked about it earlier in the session.
Does
You got to read Talk Business more often, John. You're missing out on some stuff.
Are you online? I'm kidding. Just a little joke.
The tax relief was not necessarily built in there, but he told us several weeks ago that he was going to do something on e-cigarettes and tobacco tax.
Oh, I knew that. I'm talking about the earned income tax credit.
No. That was new.
See, the earned income tax credit was once a Reaganite Republican think tank, conservative think tank idea. It rewards work. Up to a certain low level of income, the income that you make will in itself pay for the taxes that you owe, even to the point of refundability. And it's the idea in the beginning out of the Heritage Foundation, places like that, was this encourages work. Along the way, Republican Party became more right-wing and abandoned that kind of thinking, and Democrats came to embrace the earned income tax credit. And Warwick Sabin tried in 2 sessions to get it done, and it's been a big initiative of the Democratic caucus this time.
And it has been talked about a lot in the task force that met over the last year and a half on taxes.
And all of a sudden here at the end of the session, Hendren comes as a surprise to me, announcing this, that the tobacco taxes and e-cigarette taxes and vaping taxes he's been talking about, those are going to offset, and what those are going to raise will offset an earned income tax credit federally modeled. And he's got left of center Democrats on one side of him and some moderate Republicans on the other side. He's got 17 co-sponsors in the Senate and 40 in the House. Great, wonderful policy. The state that is, as I put it Sunday, on trial in Washington for being mean to poor people, back home is trying to reward poor people for working. Just a marvelous thing, and I'm glad to see it. Now, I'm now dubious as to whether he can pass it in the House. I just read in the Democrat Gazette this morning that on the House side, Representative Jett, Revenue and Tax Committee Chairman, a Democrat not too long ago,
right,
but now Republican, he said, sometimes we've just got to say enough is enough on all these tax increases. Really? After we've cut taxes for rich people by millions and put gasoline taxes on the working man, suddenly cigarette taxes and e-cigarettes, that's the place to draw the line. It's going to be what I call, it's going to be kind of a finger roll for Hendren to get this done.
You've gone back to your basketball metaphor.
Well, it's still March Madness, and it's getting interesting. So I just applaud his leadership. I applaud what appears to be his evolution, Hendren's, and I hope for the best on this proposal, even though the House looks problematic.
Yeah, you've totally jinxed him.
I ruined him, and he cannot. Every Republican I've ever said nice things about has proceeded to lose a Republican primary, except Ace Hutchinson. He did handle the gun goddess, even with my nice words.
Well,
so.
Mike Huckabee, he did all right.
I'm talking about in the post-Huckabee era. After this, the Burris and Duncan Baird and others, I sent one into the lobbying profession and the other into a bureaucratic profession. Got him out of the legislature.
All right. He's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. Always a pleasure.
You
Good
bet.
to see you.
All right.
All right. Thank you for tuning in. That's all for today's Talk Business and Politics. I'm Roby Brock. We'll see you next time.
You'll find us at the end of a lot of long country roads, covering over 60% of the great state of Arkansas. Our 17 electric distribution cooperatives are working day and night to provide reliable, affordable power to over 500,000 homes, farms, and businesses, just like yours. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas, your local energy partners.
Each day, the promise of our nation begins again. Arkansas and America, moving forward. I help make that promise a reality. It's not for everyone, but people everywhere depend on us.
Oh, I love you too, sweetie.
Trucking delivers, or everything stops. And that's what drives me.